still remember that night because even now, years later, I can't explain what happened. I was 17 years old, and for the first time, my parents had left me completely alone at home for the weekend. At first, it felt exciting. I ordered food, watched movies, and stayed up much later than I normally would. By midnight, the house was completely silent, except for the sound of the rain tapping against the windows. Around 1:30 a.m., I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard a loud thump from downstairs. It sounded like something heavy had fallen in the kitchen. I froze and listened. A few seconds later, I heard another sound, a slow creak, like someone stepping on the wooden floor. My first thought was that a burglar had somehow gotten inside. My heart was racing as I grabbed a baseball bat and quietly opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dark. The only light came from the street lamp outside. I slowly walked downstairs, trying not to make any noise. The kitchen looked completely normal. Nothing had fallen, nothing was out of place. Feeling embarrassed, I told myself I was just imagining things because I was alone. But as I turned to go back upstairs, I heard a soft whisper behind me. It wasn't clear enough to understand, but it sounded like a voice. I spun around instantly. Nobody was there. The room was empty. I checked every door and every window. Everything was locked. That's when I decided to return to my room and try to sleep. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was from an unknown number. The message contained only 4 words. "I can see you." My stomach dropped. I immediately looked out my bedroom window, expecting to see someone outside, but the street was empty. I replied, asking who it was, but no answer came. Then another message arrived. This one said, "Don't look under the bed." I felt a chill run through my entire body. The sender had to be playing a sick joke. That's what I kept telling myself. Yet I couldn't stop staring at the dark space beneath my bed. For almost 10 minutes, I sat completely still. Then I heard it. A faint scratching sound coming from directly under me. It was slow and deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Every hair on my body stood up. I jumped off the bed and backed against the wall, unable to take my eyes off the darkness underneath. The scratching stopped. Then, after a few seconds, something else happened. I heard a quiet laugh, a real laugh. I locked myself in the bathroom and called the police. While waiting for them to arrive, I could hear footsteps moving through the hallway outside. Slow footsteps, as if someone was searching the house. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, I heard police sirens outside. The officers entered the house and searched every room. When they checked my bedroom, they found nothing under the bed, nothing in the closet, nothing anywhere in the house. But one officer called me into the room and showed me something that made my blood run cold. On the wooden floor beneath my bed were fresh scratch marks, deep scratch marks that hadn't been there before. Next to them was a small piece of paper. Written in shaky handwriting were the exact same 4 words from the text message. "I can see you." The police never found out who sent the messages. They traced the number, but it didn't exist. No one was ever identified, and no evidence showed how anyone could have entered the house. To this day, I still don't know if there was really someone hiding in my home that night, or if something else was there. But I know one thing for certain. I have never looked under my bed before going to sleep ever again. My name is Daniel, and I live in northern Michigan. I'm 34 now, but what happened to me when I was 26 still keeps me awake at night. Back then, I had just moved into a small cabin outside the town of Gaylord. I worked remotely and wanted peace and quiet. The nearest neighbor was almost half a mile away, and dense woods surrounded the property. At first, it was paradise. Deer wandered through the yard, and nights were silent except for crickets and the wind. But after about 2 months, strange things started happening. Every morning, I would find muddy footprints beneath my bedroom window. They were too large to be from a dog and too narrow to be from a bear. I assumed some local kids were messing with me, although I couldn't imagine anyone hiking through the forest in the middle of the night just to leave footprints. Then, one night, around 2 in the morning, I woke up because I heard tapping on the glass. Not loud, just 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. I looked toward the window and saw nothing except darkness. After a few minutes, I convinced myself that a branch had hit the glass and tried to go back to sleep. But then, I heard it again. 3 taps. This time I looked carefully. There was something outside. Not a person exactly, just a shape. Tall, thin, standing completely motionless. I couldn't make out a face, but I knew it was staring directly at me. My blood turned cold. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The instant the beam hit the window, the thing vanished. The next morning, I found footprints again. Except this time, they didn't stop at the window. They circled the entire cabin. I called the sheriff, but they found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no animal tracks, nothing. For weeks, everything seemed normal again. Then one evening, I came home from grocery shopping and noticed my back door was open. I knew I had locked it. Every light in the cabin was on. My heart nearly exploded. I grabbed a tire iron from my truck and slowly entered the house. Nothing had been stolen. Nothing was broken. But in the middle of the kitchen table sat an old photograph I had never seen before. It showed my cabin sometime in the 1970s, and standing near the front porch was a tall figure, so thin it almost looked unnatural. Someone had circled the figure with red ink. I immediately drove to the sheriff's office. They thought someone was playing a prank, but nobody could explain where the picture came from. One deputy told me that years earlier, an old man named Walter Jenkins had disappeared near those woods. People claimed he used to wander the forest at night after his wife died. Some said they still saw him standing outside houses after dark. The deputy laughed while telling me the story, but I noticed he stopped smiling when he looked at the photograph. About a month later, I woke up to my dog growling. He was staring at the bedroom window. I looked over and nearly screamed. There was a face outside, pale, wrinkled, eyes wide open, smiling. It wasn't 20 feet away. It was inches from the glass. I grabbed my shotgun and ran outside. Nobody was there, but fresh footprints led toward the woods. I followed them for maybe 50 yards before my flashlight caught something hanging from a tree. It was the same photograph, only now someone had scratched out the figure's face. I moved out 3 days later. I sold the cabin at a loss and never returned. But every few months, usually around 2 or 3 in the morning, I wake up because I hear 3 slow taps somewhere in the house. Tap, tap, Every single time when I look at my bedroom window, I have the terrifying feeling that something is standing on the other side, waiting for me to notice it. My name is Ryan, and I used to work as a truck driver in Texas. Long-haul routes never bothered me. I enjoyed being alone on the road. But there was one trip in 2018 that changed everything. I was hauling cargo from Dallas to New Mexico. Around midnight, I was crossing a remote stretch of highway with almost no traffic. The radio was playing old country music, and I was talking with other truckers on Channel 19. Suddenly, all the chatter stopped. Static filled the speaker. Then a woman's voice came through. Calm. Clear. Don't stop the truck. I thought somebody was joking. Then she repeated it. Whatever happens, do not stop. Before I could answer, the radio went silent. I checked my mirrors and saw headlights behind me. A black pickup truck was following. Nothing unusual about that, except it stayed exactly the same distance away for nearly 30 miles. Whenever I slowed down, it slowed down. Whenever I accelerated, it matched my speed. I tried changing lanes. So did the truck. That's when I remembered the strange warning. My hands started shaking. About 10 minutes later, I noticed something standing on the shoulder of the road. It looked like a woman waving her arms frantically. She appeared injured. Her clothes were dirty, and she seemed desperate for help. My instinct was to stop. But just as I reached for the brakes, the radio exploded with static. Then the same voice screamed, "Keep driving!" I nearly jumped out of my seat. I looked back at the woman in my mirror and saw something that still makes me sick. She wasn't waving. Her arms were hanging unnaturally long, and her head was tilted sideways at an impossible angle. And she was smiling. The black pickup behind me suddenly swerved around and stopped beside her. Both disappeared into the darkness. I drove straight to the next gas station, shaking so badly I could barely stand. The clerk noticed my condition and asked what was wrong. When I told him where I'd seen the woman, his face turned white. He said there had been multiple reports over the years about drivers seeing a woman on that highway. Every time someone stopped to help, strange things happened. A few people had disappeared. I laughed nervously, assuming it was just local folklore. But 2 hours later, while filling my tank, I noticed the black pickup parked at the edge of the lot. Its lights were off. No one was inside. I quickly left. For the next 100 miles, I kept checking my mirrors. Nothing. Then, Channel 9 crackled again. The woman's voice returned. But this time, she sounded tired. "You made it," she whispered. "He almost got you." I shouted into the radio, demanding to know who she was. There was a long silence. Then she said, "I couldn't save myself." The transmission ended. Years later, curiosity got the better of me, and I researched accidents on that highway. I found an article about a female truck driver who died there in 1996 after stopping to help what witnesses described as a stranded woman. Her CB radio number had been Channel 9. I quit long-haul trucking not long afterward, but whenever I hear radio static, I still remember that voice. And sometimes I wonder if she is still out there, warning drivers who are unlucky enough to be traveling that lonely road after midnight. My name is Emily, and this happened to me and my husband in Oregon in 2021. We loved camping. Every summer, we spent weekends exploring forests and lakes. One October, we visited a remote area near Mount Hood. It was beautiful, but locals warned us not to hike off the marked trails. We ignored the advice. About 3 miles into the forest, we discovered an abandoned ranger station. It had collapsed years earlier, and vines covered the walls. Inside, we found old furniture, rusted cans, and strange symbols carved into one wall. My husband thought it would be funny to take a picture. The moment he snapped the photo, we heard a loud bang upstairs. We assumed it was an animal. Then another bang, and another. Something heavy was walking above us. We called out, expecting another hiker. No answer. The footsteps stopped. Complete silence. Then came a slow, dragging sound. Whatever it was seemed to be moving toward the stairs. We ran. Neither of us spoke until we reached our campsite. We laughed about it later, convincing ourselves it had been a raccoon or maybe a bear. That night, around 3 in the morning, I woke up because I heard footsteps outside our tent. Heavy footsteps, crunching leaves. They circled us for nearly 10 minutes. My husband whispered that he could hear breathing. Not animal breathing, human breathing. We stayed absolutely still. Eventually, the sound stopped. At sunrise, we packed up and left. On the drive home, my husband checked the photos from the trip. Most looked normal, but one image from the ranger station made us freeze. Standing at the top of the staircase was a figure, tall and blurry. Its eyes reflected the flash. We hadn't seen anyone there when the picture was taken. We tried convincing ourselves it was a shadow, but strange things started happening after we got home. Doors would open by themselves. Our dog growled at empty corners. Every night at exactly 3:13 a.m., we heard 3 knocks somewhere inside the house. One night, our security camera alerted us to movement in the backyard. I checked the footage and nearly fainted. Something was standing beside the swing set. It wasn't moving. It simply stood there for 6 hours. The following week, our dog disappeared. We found him sitting in the woods behind our house, trembling and refusing to come closer. A veterinarian said nothing was physically wrong with him. Then, my husband received a notification from his cloud account. Apparently, one of the old camping photos had been edited. Nobody had touched it. We opened the picture and screamed. The figure from the ranger station wasn't upstairs anymore. It was standing behind us, much closer than before. We deleted the image immediately. 2 days later, our bedroom mirror shattered in the middle of the night. No reason, no explanation. We moved to another state shortly afterward. Things became quiet again, almost normal. Until 6 months later, when my husband was organizing old files. Somehow, that same photograph had returned, and standing behind us was no longer one figure. There were 2. We deleted every picture from that trip. We burned the camping gear. We never went back into the woods. But every year, on the anniversary of that camping trip, our security camera captures someone standing near the tree line at exactly 3:13 in the morning. The figure never approaches. It just watches. And before sunrise, it disappears.